I don't know about you guys and gals, but one thing I really like doing is just kind of debating various points of a new product release in the comments section, on like Tech Power Up or Tech Spot or on various TechTuber videos. But it becomes extra fun, at least for me, when it veers off subject. Actually, I know some websites get mad when the conversations get off subject; they'll even ban you for it. But what's fun is when someone says this seems directly comparable to the GTX 480 launch, but then again, I could never buy a card that loud. Or you'll see someone bring up like some big price performance victory from either NVIDIA or AMD or Intel in the past, and then you start reminiscing, like when I got into PC gaming, this and that. And I don't see that a lot from various tech tubers, but I see it talked about a lot in the comments where people watching the videos will say, Tom, my name, what do you think about this launch in the past year? Isn't this directly comparable? And then we'll just start talking on and on and on about that. And that's gotten me thinking lately. It's 2019 somehow already. And for me, that's really about 10 years of being what I would call a PC gamer. I certainly played PC games before that, but I think that, a full decade's here. And a lot of people have entered the PC gaming space 3 or 4 or 5 years ago and don't know what it was like the full 10 years ago, don't know what it was like to enter a space where, frankly, the roles of like Intel, AMD, how they're regarded, and AMD and NVIDIA were completely reversed some years, and what it's been like to watch the change over time as, there's wins or losses from each company and how they respond. It's very fascinating for someone who's been interested in this space for a decade. So I thought early in my channel's life it would be fun to just make a history series, not about everything that's happened, but just kind of a little section that you might see in a library, like of someone who lived in like the 1800s, and like what it was like from just one person's point of view, which is what this series is going to be. This is my point of view, what it was like to enter PC gaming a decade ago and continue onwards all the way now to 2019. And where am I coming from? Where are all these opinions I keep throwing out there onto YouTube coming from? So I hope you enjoy this. I've crapped open a PBR and I'm ready to get reminiscing with you guys. So what you're looking at here is what I would say is my first gaming laptop. Now, of course, I'd played games on PC beforehand, and I come from the era, right? If you were before 2009, there's a good chance you lived in one of those homes with just one HP or Dell or, I don't know, maybe even Gateway laptop that you had to ask to use from your parents. You were lucky if it had any type of, usable graphics card or processor or amount of RAM in it. But most of the time, if it was a game from a few years ago, you could probably play something. So there was some of that. Like I played Age of Empires 3, and before that Age of Empires 2. I loved Rayman on PC when I was really little, but I never really got my own device. But in 2009, I was about to graduate high school, and I was going into mechanical engineering, right? And so I needed something. I had already done a lot of computer modeling in my high school, which I went to a really good high school. But I needed one I could bring to college, bring to classes, and then pull out and model something in CAD or Inventor, Autodesk, something. And so they, like a lot of kids get from middle income houses, get their one awesome laptop before they go to college. This was mine. And I got it my senior year of high school, and it had a Core 2 Duo M. I put as much research as I could into it, but I was completely new to designing these or picking out parts at the time. But what I knew is, and I kept looking and looking and looking through 2008, 2009, quad-core processors were definitely a thing, but every game used one core still. And so really a fast clock dual core most of the time was better. That's what I read. And so I went with a 3 gigahertz Core 2 Duo, which for a laptop at the time was pretty goddamn powerful. And I also had 6 gigabytes of RAM because I needed that, right? And I had a GTX 130M, which if you'll look it up, I think it has 48 CUDA cores, if you can believe it. But at the time, that was a mid-range gaming card, like a lower mid-range gaming card, and it fit in my laptop. I mean, this thing had the one really cool thing it had is it did have like a Blu-ray player and a 1080p screen. And at the time, that was awesome. That was absolutely awesome. And so when I got this, I could finally run Crysis. And I mean, I remember this was the era where PC graphics were getting, and console graphics were getting so much better, so fast, that 30 FPS was the standard. And that's because going from 60 to 30 would be a substantial upgrade in graphics. I remember playing Crysis at like 25 frames a second and 720p on this, just so I could get it in ultra settings, because it looked almost photorealistic. It was gorgeous. I put up with the horrible frame rate. A lot of people who entered PC gaming within the past 5 years have no concept of why you would run a game at 30 frames per second. And at this point, I would say no one should be. But back then, man, like if you had Fear, oh my God, it looked so amazing, right? And then so I played this, Age of Empires 3, Mass Effect, The Sims, Spore. That was another Maxis game, yeah. But I mostly played on console, right? This was an era where I got this PC because this was my PC for the next 8 years, is what we were thinking, at least. And it was there for college. That's why it was okay to be expensive. And it was okay with me, though. And I'll tell you why it was okay. And that's because I owned a PlayStation 3, you know. I had saved up for years, actually. My parents didn't buy me like a 360 for Christmas. I saved up, I want to say from in middle school, I saved up for like 3 years straight, not buying anything, doing odd jobs, my allowance. And I bought a PS3 the year it came out. And until 2012, and that's what this really video is about, is the early PS3 days. What I'm talking about is I could not want for games. People forget there's plenty of good exclusives on consoles now, but this was really the golden age of the PlayStation exclusive. And I was playing, I mean, so think of this, right? Resistance, Uncharted, Killzone, Infamous, Little Big Planet. You have, and these games would have a release every 3 years. So just those IPs alone, nonstop. I mean, but then Demon's Souls came out, and I played that nonstop for a year. SOCOM, MAG, I played nonstop for like a year. Metal Gear Solid, I couldn't believe how good that game was. And so I never really wanted for PC gaming. Every now and then there would be a game that I would get on PC, but it was like most people of the time, mostly just for RTSs and stuff. I really didn't know anything about PC gaming, you know. I had so many exclusives, I wasn't even playing third-party games for a while. And then eventually I got into the third, and so I started playing like Far Cry 2, my favorite Far Cry. Battlefield 3, Borderlands, oh my God. I got Borderlands 2 years after that came out with all of the expansion packs. That was like my favorite game for a year straight. Just playing with my brother nonstop co-op. And then my friends joined us. It was amazing. And over time, I just used my PC a little bit more because I had to. But then, well, look, guys, laptops, they sucked back then. Like a lot. This thing here had an hour of battery life. And it would get hot and eventually just melted. See right here? These speakers, they just melted eventually, and I had to send it in for repair. But I needed something to bring to class, right? And so I looked around, and this is when netbooks were becoming a big thing. And this was my first netbook. It's all I could afford in college. It was a couple $100. But you know, it had a 6-hour battery life, which was crazy for like 2010. And I started to just become curious, and this is where I think the seed of me becoming a PC gaming enthusiast, or just PC hardware enthusiast in general, came from, is I started to become fascinated that for the first time I could have a laptop that wasn't hot, wasn't loud, yes it was small, yes it had a shitty 10-inch screen at like, I don't even know what it was at, probably I think 640p, right, like 1024 by 640. But like, what was this thing capable of? I upgraded its RAM so it could have a full 2 gigabytes of RAM instead of just 1 gigabyte. And then I found out it could run Half-Life 2. And so I had to wait like 3 months for my, or about a month or two for my big oversized laptop to come back. And yet this is when I started doing more PC gaming than I had ever done in my life. I discovered Half-Life 2, and I could not stop playing it, even though it was at like 24 frames a second on my shitty netbook. Return to Ravenholm, that driving, that long driving section along the beaches of England, where you get to the lighthouse at the end and defend against the attack. I was so blown away by Half-Life 2, and it started to make me realize, oh my god, there's probably a lot of PC games I have been missing, it isn't there? And this is when I started getting interested in Steam. You know, my laptop finally got back. I started going through a Steam backlog. I started playing Oblivion. I started playing... God, what else? I don't know. There's really too many games to list from that era. And this is when I started to become interested in gaming PCs. You know, eventually I sold that Toshiba laptop to my little brother who was in high school, and I got this one here. And this was an HP that had, what was it? Let's see, an E350 APU. I upgraded it to have 3 gigabytes of RAM, which for like 2011, 2010 was actually plenty RAM. I mean, what is that? 6 times the RAM as in the consoles. You could run almost any game. This could run Mass Effect. It could run Crysis at like medium settings. Like, Crysis was old by then, of course, 6 years old. And people forget that Crysis actually was very easy to play without a powerful graphics card. It's just, if you wanted those godlike graphics, you had to have 3 GTX 280s and SLI. But anyways, though, and this is when I started to, like, this could play Oblivion. I played a ton of Oblivion. I installed some mods on it, and I was traveling so much. I had a long-distance relationship at this time, and I could just bring this on a plane. I could bring this on the road. I could game for 3 hours straight without losing battery life on the road, and I've never gone back to big laptops since then, because this is what I realized. Gaming laptops suck ass, guys. Like, really. The biggest you want to go to is every now and then a custom gaming laptop website will make something with like a GTX, I guess like 760M. It'll be like a small 13-inch with like a 4-hour battery life. I mean, you could maybe settle for that. Or now we're finally getting to this point where you can get like a 1050 Ti inside of like a 12-inch 8-hour battery life laptop. And that's the biggest you want to go. That's when I learned big laptops suck ass. Gaming on laptops then in general kind of sucks. And I started to want to build a gaming PC. You want a small laptop so you can bring it anywhere on the road, and there's always some games like, you know, Don't Starve or Age of Empires that you can run on these things. And that's when I started getting interested here.
A computer system as a whole might seem complex and intimidating to a lot of folks, so I've come over here to this light switch to show at the most basic level how a computer works. And that's like this. Off and on. Okay.
And, you know, that is really when I started to get interested in PC gaming. I watched Newegg's, and isn't that funny there, Paul? Before, it's like a guy helping people on Newegg before he blew up into this giant tech tuber. For some reason, that light switch part really sticks in my head, because that's when I realized I wanted a gaming PC. There was something about it. And so I started looking online. I mean, I remember my question was, Battlefield 3 had just come out, and I loved it on PS3, but I wanted to run it on PC as well. I wanted 64-player games. This is the era where PC games, where the last-gen consoles have been around for so long that the devs are like, look, we're making it 64-player on PC, and you guys can just fucking make it do with 24, because we don't know what to do anymore. We've been stuck on this gen for 8 years. And so I was asking, I want to run Battlefield 3 at 30 frames per second and 900p. But if you're a console gamer at the time, that would have been incredible, because you're used to 720p, 28 frames a second, let's be honest. And that is when I started looking around. And that'll be the next video, reminiscing about... So just some final thoughts on those last couple years. I don't know about you guys, but when I first got into PC gaming, when I was just using a laptop, I saw it, and I have still seen it with so many of my friends, thinking they need to get a laptop so it can do anything instead of just building a gaming desktop. That was me at first, just like most of us, I think. And I knew nothing. I was okay with 30 frames per second gaming because I mostly gamed on console. I was happy to turn down half or most of my settings. I had no idea how much RAM I would need or how much faster an operating system could run if you had quicker storage. You know, I knew nothing back then. Nothing, right? I may have done modeling for engineering, but it was just using PCs in a classroom made for me. I wasn't building them yet. You know, I knew absolutely nothing. And it's just funny to think about, you know. So, next video will be on when I started looking into and building my first PC, what it was like to enter into the Fermi versus, Pitcairn era back then. And please share this. I'm putting in more effort now in my videos, as you guys are probably telling. Share, subscribe if you like it. Even just sending 10 cents to me on like that Bitcoin address or the Cash App that I have in the description. It doesn't really just, I don't need 10 cents. I have a decent job. It tells me someone paid any amount of money, right? And it's like this endorphin ping in your head going, okay, someone likes this enough, So yeah, and of course, tell me what you think. Do you like this? Would you like more videos like this? Did you mind that I dwelled on PlayStation a little bit? Because I used to be a bit of a fanboy in high school, so I can go on about PlayStation as much as you guys want if that's what you like. All right, thanks everybody. Let me know what you think in the comments section.